Hey everyone, thanks for joining DevSecOps, the good, the bad, the ugly. Really excited today to have Aaron with me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Aaron, I know we've connected at a few events in the past. You also spoke at All Day DevOps where I was able to get to know you. Would you mind sharing everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'm currently the CTO and co-founder of a company called Verica. Verica
Yep.
builds sort of a what we call a continuous verification platform. Basically, the idea is built upon the work that my co-founder and I did in pioneering chaos engineering. It's a way to proactively identify system failures and fix them before they cause customer pain. And that's kind of what we do there. I am most notably known as being the creator of Chaos Engineering for Security, or Security Chaos Engineering. I wrote the security section of the O'Reilly book that comes out next week. I'm also the O'Reilly author on the Security Chaos Engineering as well, which the book comes out in July. And yeah, before I co-founded with Casey Rosenthal, Casey was the creator of Chaos Engineering at Netflix. I was before I got into startup land.
Right.
I was the chief security architect at United Health Group. My job at the company was the engineering strategy for the company. Right. Really, it was around identifying and proactively finding creative solutions to difficult problems. That's also where I have found a lot of interest in Sonatype and because Sonatype solves one of the difficult issues in software delivery that a lot of people are not aware of, which is software dependency security. I would go after other things like, security observability. How do I improve the way we architect, build, and deliver solutions from a security perspective? And I have dealt with sort of the high-profile company problems. But while I was at the company, what leads me up to today to fill in that gap is that so when I was at the company, I led a couple digital transformations, if you will. I was part of leading the DevOps transformation for the company, as part of leading sort of some of the cloud transformation efforts, as well as making open source possible. And our first open source tool was actually a tool called Chaos Slinger, which was the first application of Netflix's chaos engineering to security.
Hey, Aaron, just to clarify, this is when you were with United, right? When you
was the United Health Group, yep.
So what is chaos engineering, right? Because you started that there, and obviously you've now making a company from that idea. What is it? Why is it?
I'll give you how I define things. Is chaos engineering is the idea of proactively introducing turbulent conditions or faults or failures into a system to try to determine the conditions by which the system or service will fail before it fails. Because right now, how we learn about system failure is kind of through outages and incidents. What we can do with chaos engineering is we can surface the failure, fix it so it doesn't manifest in the customer pain.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's great. So how is that important for security then?
So it's so a little bit more about my career is that I spent the majority of my career as a software engineer, and before I got into security. So I've never seen the system and its security as different components. I've kind of seen it as one system that's either secure or it's not. So the concepts that chaos engineering addresses, what it really addresses is the fact that we're building systems at such a scale, such a change, at such a speed, and very disparate in how they operate. It's hard for humans to mentally process 3,000 microservices changing 400 times a day, right?
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Right. I mean, we can't. We can't do the problem. Also, the problem with processing that is that we are constantly building and changing that system. That system we don't really understand anymore. It's moved. Like John Allspaw likes to say that real work, especially engineering work, is messy. It is messy, right? It's we forget that because we have to simplify and abstract. Well, these problem sets with complex systems and the complexity in software today are also applied to the security that we are trying to build and deliver. Is that how do you know that the security you built and configured and operate is actually effective at the conditions you designed it for? And when was the last time you actually tested that? So what chaos engineering does is it corrects our mental model of how we think the system works and how it works in reality. We do that by writing a hypothesis. We say that if X happens, I have designed Y to be the outcome, right? And for example, it could be a misconfiguration, say a misconfigured port, or it could be a misconfigured account. It could be a lot of the security failure comes through misconfiguration. Whether it could be they didn't understand all that complexity and they didn't, weren't able to process that into configuration. But so when like coming back to the example is that when certain misconfigurations happen, you expect that the security control you designed to prevent or detect that to actually fire and function. But what happens when it doesn't? And in my experience in applying Netflix's chaos engineering to security is that it almost never actually works the way we think it does. The system quickly grows into a state of unknown. And so, sorry, I'm kind of just on a rant here, but I want to explain a really cool way of like how I'm like now explaining some of this to people. Is that and speaking to like a really large financial institution, I observed Casey having a conversation about this company wanting to move from an old legacy stable system to Kubernetes, right? And like this engineer was saying that like, well, we're confident about the system's operational capability. We have the right skills, the right team, the right. It rarely has an outage, right? And we're unsure about the move to Kubernetes. And like a light bulb started popping up in my head. I was like, well, okay. How did that system become stable? And how did you become competent? And how did it? I'm sure at one point that was greenfield too. That was like unknown, right? We become confident through a series of outages and incidents, unforeseen events, right? That's how we build that confidence. It's like, but the process of doing it through an outage or an incident is you're learning through pain. Right. There's a lot of pain endured by the business. And chaos
are you trying to test these then, Aaron? I mean, ultimately before production, right? Is what it sounds like. Chaos engineering, or explain that.
This is mostly chaos engineering is mostly a post-production. What's happening is like, the combination of CI and CD and public cloud and microservices. Even the DevOps is a contributor to it. Is that like now we just have these systems that like. When think about it. So let's say you got 10 microservices, right? You don't actually have 10. You probably have 10 of each, right? You got reporting, you got payments, you have 10 of them. You have 10 of each for throughput, because the amount of requests will auto scale up and down. So let's say you have 10 of each. That's already 100, right? Add in the fact you probably have old versions running. Microservices are not independent. They're actually dependent upon other microservices. That's how you get a holistic thing, is that they work together. They're related. Well, you have old versions running, so you get 5 more of each. Probably have new versions you're testing out, what they call blue-green deployments. So you easily can have, 200 before you even get started, right? That's without adding in other complexity, right? It's just, it's the fact that each one of those microservices probably has a different team that's associated with it. All these humans are constantly writing all these changes, and all their tests are passing for their own service. But when the system comes together, there's this whole big balloon of things. Weird shit starts happening, and part of it is it comes from a field of we're building what they call a complex adaptive system. That is a term in applied science. It's a system that has emergent behavior. When the services individually by themselves have certain predictable behavior, but when they start interacting as an ecosystem, certain properties and things that you never thought would happen start emerging. Not only is there emergent outcomes and behavior, you also get magnification, or what they call nonlinear dynamics, which is where chaos theory and like the butterfly, when a butterfly flaps its wings, it creates in North Carolina, it creates a hurricane in Singapore or whatever. I think it's the other way around. But either way, you get what I'm saying, right? But it's the ripple effect, the cascading failures. Like nonlinear means 1 + 1 no longer equals 2. It equals like -60 or -5,000 or. Does that make sense? We get these unpredictable, unforeseen outcomes. And so what we do to help engineers navigate that messy ecosystem of complexity is we help them write assumptions, right? I believe, so my understanding in my head is that when X occurs, Y is what I've designed. So we actually inject that question to the system. We ask the question. We do that by injecting the failure, the X, right, to see if Y occurred. And
Right,
almost never have I ever seen the initial run of an experiment actually succeed.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely fascinating, and I could see, with everybody right now working remote, systems being tested now more than ever, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like chaos engineering has never been more in need, because I mean, like chaos engineering began to really, Netflix is roughly what 40 plus % of all the internet, and all of the internet worldwide. Used to just be North America. Now, I mean, and they're roughly about the same percentage of AWS. I mean, like, just imagine the stress that they put on the network, the internet, and the cloud, right? Like, but they're able to function at those levels of stress because they constantly are trying to see what the safety margin, the limit. Like, the problem with engineering, the problem with like modern engineering is that we don't know where the edge is until we fall off of it. So what we help people do, like, or what chaos engineering helps establish, is like, where is the edge, and what are all the points that lead up to the edge? That way you know when you start getting near it.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
No, that's awesome, Aaron. Hey, I really appreciate you shedding light into that, because I think it's a newer area, right? It's a newer thought, as you were kind of bleeding edge there at United Health Group, leading that change. So appreciate you being willing to come on and explain what chaos engineering is and how it can help organizations.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.